All right, Chris, we're ready for maybe one of the best Ditch Digger CEO podcasts ever. Okay, I've got a gentleman that I've admired from afar and got to meet Tom, and Tom probably doesn't know this, about 2014 when I joined Legatus for the first time, and that's a great organization you're going to hear a little bit about. And from then on, I was wowed by this person and his humility. His leadership, entrepreneurship, everything about Tom is unbelievable, and our guests get to hear about Tom today. Are you excited? Are you excited, Chris, or what?
Oh man, I'm stoked.
You're excited and I'm scared.
I'm guessing you've done this a few times before, Tom. And so we're really excited to have you here today, Tom. Appreciate you spending the time with us today to do this podcast. We just want to meet. We want to meet, and we want to hear the stories of some of the most successful rags to riches stories in American history. And we've got some great ones, but I'm not sure we've got any as good as the one we're going to have today. So we'll start out right away, Tom. We basically go right into kind of upbringing and kind of where your values were formed, where your brain formed as an entrepreneur. So we're talking to entrepreneurs. We're talking to people that love America. We're talking to people that love God, and you're all those. So thanks for being here. And Chris will throw some questions in here and there, but I'll fire a lot of them away. But tell us about your upbringing, Tom. Tell us where it all started.
We were pretty poor. My dad had some illness. He had ulcers, and he eventually died from that. He died when I was 4 on Christmas Eve, 1941, and I had a younger brother. My mother was a little bit unstable. She was kind of bipolar, we call it nowadays, and so she couldn't handle 2 boys. So she put us in a foster home for a while, and then put us in an orphanage, and we were there until I was 12, and that's where I got my faith. There was about 50 boys and about 8 or 10 Polish nuns and a priest, and lived in a huge mansion with a gymnasium attached to it, and we had school right there in the early years.
So it didn't sound like a terrible place. You had a gym, place to compete a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
as I know you've done in your life a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Place to learn all about your faith, right? The faith that you maybe didn't have before there, right?
Yeah, that was like being brought up in a convent, because everything was about God.
Wow.
And
And about 50 kids?
50 boys.
50 boys.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that at?
In Jackson, Michigan.
In Jackson, Michigan. How far from Detroit?
About 75 miles. It
Okay.
was, and they were Polish nuns, Patricians. A lot of them was their second language.
Wow. Did you learn a little Polish back then?
Yeah, I learned how to say "go to hell."
Okay, so tell us about when you in that convent, you probably had many lessons, right? Give us a few of the lessons you feel were the most valuable lessons in that orphanage.
Well, the main thing was my faith. I mean, I don't know anybody that's had the privilege of the opportunity to be as well formed as we were. We had God all day long. I wanted to be a priest at the time I was in the 2nd grade.
Wow. And then what? And then what are a few more lessons? Well, maybe 2 more lessons that were with faith, right? You're going to have a lot of things under that. What else do you feel were like really important to the future in your life?
Lessons. Well, during that period of time, I was wanting to get out of there. Because I was so sad that I lost my dad, and I kept saying, "Why did my daddy have to die?" That was tough.
That's where faith comes in, right? I mean, to be there and as a little kid asking yourself that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where faith had to be built for you to explain this somehow in your own mind, right?
Mm-hmm. But it was the best thing that could have happened, because few people are better formed in their faith at an early age than I was. His sisters are really holy.
Yeah.
And we had benediction every day and a mass every day and long morning and evening prayers.
Wow. That's amazing. And then you were there until how long?
Till I was 12.
Till 12. So about 6 to 12.
Yes.
In 1949. And what a time that was, right? You went through World War II, and World War II had been getting...
Yeah, I remember the war. I remember it was over. I remember we complained about the food, and they said, well, think of the poor kids in Europe.
Yeah. And when you after 12 years old, where'd you go next?
My mother was a nurse, and she had hay fever, so she moved to northern Michigan, Traverse City, because of that. And she bought a little house up there, and I think it was some insurance money from when my dad died, and that just didn't work out with her emotional fits, and so I ended up living in foster farms, and I liked farm life. I liked the work, but the one thing that's really saved me in that period was the pastor of the parish. He kind of took me under his wing, gave me work around the school, and he was a father figure to me.
Taught you how to work, huh? Taught you the meaning of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes.
At a young age.
Yes.
And then, okay. So
on the farms, I worked real hard. I liked that. I lived at one farm that didn't have electricity. We had to heat with wood and cook with wood.
Wow.
And every Saturday night, I sat in the tub by the space heater in the living room and took my bath.
People today couldn't imagine that, right? Yeah, we were at 13, 14 at that point?
About 14. And that's when I decided to go to seminary. I was going to go to seminary in the 9th grade. But in the 7th grade, after I got out of the orphanage, I sat behind this girl, and something happened. I just completely forgot about being a priest.
I have a son-in-law like that, actually. I have a son-in-law that has 22 kids in his family, 18 adopted, strong Catholic family, Rockford, Illinois, and he went to seminary, and he thought he wanted to be a priest. And eventually he realized that he really wanted to have a family someday. Went into law school eventually. Met my daughter at Loyola, and it's a tough. It
was hard to give up the girls, but the 10th grade I was cleaning out the barn in the spring day, and I decided, where did I go wrong? I always wanted to be a priest. That's what I should do. That's the most important thing I can do, and I applied and I went to seminary.
So you're at the 16 years old then, probably?
I was 14.
Oh, 14?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember on the application, the question is, why do you want to be a priest? And my exact words were, I seek the salvation of souls. I can't believe at that age and the pastor was very impressed. And ironically, that's what I've been trying to do ever since. I did get kicked out of the seminary because my mother wrote a letter to the rector saying I wasn't writing home very often. And I was crushed. And I didn't crack a book the last 2 years of high school. I barely graduated from high school.
Wow. And for a kid, like you're saying, 14 years old, to say, I seek the salvation right, of souls. That's an amazing thing for a 14-year-old. I mean, that's just just what you came to really appreciate that concept, right, of helping souls get to heaven.
That's the way I was brought up
when you're a little kid.
And that's why I was so frustrated when the rector said, you don't have a vocation. And I thought I was the most serious student there. In those days, they had all kinds of vocations, and a lot of them, they didn't even know why they were there. I knew why I was there, and I wanted to be a good priest to make a difference. And they threw me out.
They threw you out.
And a year later, I was in a detention home.
Wow.
In the 11th grade, I was in a detention home. My mother put me in a detention home because I wanted to stay home to the farms and play basketball. I loved basketball. And so I was walking home from practice one day, and the sheriff's car picks me up. Said, we're going to get your things. You're going to detention home. I said, what? That was the furthest thing for a delinquent there was.
Yeah.
And so I was there, and my coach worked something out with the judge so I could go to practice and play in the games. And then I had an aunt and uncle back in Ann Arbor that worked something out with the judge so I could live with them my senior year of high school, and that was really nice.
And what was your position? Were you point guard or what were you?
Believe it or not, I was center.
Center.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were tall as a young kid.
Well, I was as tall as I am now when I was in the 10th grade, but I was 5'9", 9.5.
Yeah.
But I could jump and I could reach, and I like mix it up in the middle. And I was blessed with really great reflexes. And so most of the guys I played against those days, about 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah.
And I could usually out-rebound.
It's about leverage down low, right?
Yeah,
Leverage,
position,
use your body, position.
Yeah, and be willing to mix it up.
Yep. Did you play later on, in like for fun too? Like
yeah, I played until I was about 40, about once a week.
Yep. I played also until about 10 years ago in leagues until my shoulders got pretty bad and I stopped. But it's a great game. It's one of the best games. Okay, so so then after all that, 16, 17, then what?
Well, I graduated from high school barely. I was 17, and I was on my own.
That's my story, too. I graduated in the top 85% of my class.
The top what?
85%.
Well, I stopped. I graduated last in my class.
Last? Is that right?
Yeah, they weren't even going to graduate me, and I copped the plea with the nun, and she said, okay, I'll let you graduate, but they'll never ask for a recommendation for college. So I found a college that took me in. I went there for a quarter, and you got a good enough marks to get into Michigan, but I didn't have the money for Michigan because I was on my own.
Yeah. What college again?
Oh, well, the college I went to was Ferris. I do have a PhD from there now.
PhD in what? Entrepreneurship or what?
Whatever I don't remember. I got 13 of them. I don't know what they were
You
for.
could have a PhD in many things nowadays, your experience and your wisdom.
Thank you.
So when you look at Ferris, we were in for a quarter, and then you just
transferred to Michigan.
To Michigan?
Mm-hmm. Ferris took anybody.
Okay. And then what in Michigan?
I couldn't afford to go there, so I couldn't find. I needed a job making at least $2 an hour to get any money together. So the tuition was $90 a semester back then at Michigan.
Needed to make at least $2 an hour, right?
Yeah, and I just rented a room for $6 a week. So I hitchhiked to Chicago looking for a job, and I couldn't find anything. And walking by a post office in Harvey, Illinois, and I saw a recruiting sign in there, and I thought, I saw ads, the Army advertised if you join the Army, they'll pay for your college. So I went in and talked to the recruiter, and I said, is that true? And he says, yes. If you join for 3 years, you get 2 years of college all paid for. And it wasn't until I was ready to sign the papers I realized I was signing up for the Marines. He never let me on that I was that he was a Marine.
Well, how'd that happen? Did it say Army on the window or what?
Well, yeah, the tropical uniform on the tan, so I think I thought all Marines wore dress blue.
Yeah, I might have thought the same thing. Wow, that's funny. And so then when you found out there's Marines, you're like, guess this is God's will, huh?
Well, I sure didn't get 2 years of college. I had the second highest GCT in my outfit. That's an IQ test. And they put me in the infantry. So all those different training things they had, they didn't give any of them to me. I got the infantry. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. That's the best education I could have had.
And did you ever have to go to war for anything?
No, I was between Korea and Vietnam. Yep. That's the reason I didn't have the GI Bill when I got out. If I had the GI Bill, I'd be an architect today.
Oh, okay.
It was I was between the two wars, and it became available to me a couple of years after I got out, but I was already married. And
yeah, because you had a kind of a vision of being an architect, right?
Oh,
too?
Yeah, that's
at one point.
My hobby. It's still my hobby. Yeah, I basically designed this campus and the oratory.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, this campus is going to be part of this conversation because it's amazing. I can't believe when I walk around here, drive around here. I came to a game not long ago to come to a game with you, and it's an amazing experience. But the people are so positive, fun-loving and God-loving. It's quite an experience to be here. And I'm wondering who kind of had this idea. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's go to Domino's. But how you got in the pizza business? All right, it's from would you have a couple of years in the Marines?
3
years in the Marines?
Mm-hmm. I was in Okinawa and Japan.
Oh, okay. 3 years in, and then you got out and you had decided.
I saved most of the money I made in the Marine Corps. I spent almost all my spare time either in the gym working out or in the library. I love to read, and the library is very big, so I was pretty. I read books I wouldn't bother reading, but you don't get any ribbons for that in the Marine Corps. But
okay, so then you get out.
While I was in, a very important part of my life, I was aboard ship coming back from overseas, and the problem with the rudder, and we were stuck out there, and it took a long time to get back to the port, and we had nothing to do. And I was thinking about my life and what I wanted to do. I was always a big dreamer, and all of a sudden I realized I have all these things, do all these things. What good's it going to do? It's going to make me happy. And I started really thinking about life, and I came up with what I call my 5 priorities for life, and that was.
Okay, so this is while you're out, you're on a ship. Did you say?
Yeah, in the middle of the Pacific. Yeah.
And you came up with your 5
priorities.
5 priorities. Lay them on me.
Spiritual. I figured that wasn't. I'm not instinctively holy, but I knew that's what I should be. Mm-hmm. So it had to be number 1. That's the way I was brought up. Second one was social. I had to be a good person, practice the golden rule, good family man, treat people the way I wanted to be treated.
Isn't that a simple rule? I mean, it's a simple rule that
pretty profound, though.
If you think about it every day, right? It seems to be pretty easy. But if you don't have that top of mind like you did, once in a while you might be a little ignorant to people here and there, right? Especially when success comes.
38 years in the pizza business. As far as I know, I've never mistreated anybody or unfair to anybody.
Awesome. What was number 3?
Mental, using my mind. And I've been an avid reader my whole life. I probably averaged a book a week since I was 8 years old.
Wow.
And I read very little fiction. So I'm basically self-educated. Originally it was Razor Elder stories, and then it was business. Every business book that came out, the bestseller list I read. Then it was eventually became spiritual. So after a while, all the business books are about the same. But the spiritual is just so more meaningful.
Okay, so spiritual, social, mental. What's number 4?
Physical.
Physical.
Yeah. And I always worked out. I've always been in shape. I don't have a shape, but I'm in shape.
I mean, a healthy body really, I believe, helps create a healthy mind as well. I try to work out also as much as I can, as often as possible, 4 or 5 days a week probably. But for sure, when I'm working, if I stop working out, I feel like my mind gets lazy, just like the rest of me, right? If I get a little lazy and I don't work out, and I get into 2 or 3 weeks where I'm not working out, my mind seems to get lazier too. Do you find that too?
Oh yeah, I remember years ago I was a boxing fan. I boxed in the orphanage, and I had a good left jab. That's all I had. That's all you need. And Sugar Ray Robinson was being interviewed, and he had retired at this time, and they asked him, "What do you miss about boxing?" He says, "The feeling of being in shape," and I've always remembered that.
Yeah.
And so I've always wanted to have that feeling. And
you're in good shape today. You still work out?
Oh yeah, I work out every day.
You look like it. You look good. You haven't changed ever since I met you. When I met you again, 7, 8 years ago. I mean, you're in the same physical shape you were then. It seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's that number 5?
I had to get it in there. Financial. Nowadays I call it stewardship, because I don't believe money is a bad thing with good people.
I think it's a great tool to be able to do great things.
I did well in the bottom 2, and I'm working on the others.
Yeah.
I'm, I guess at one point I was a billionaire, but I gave all my money away, so now I'm a trillionaire.
Wait, now you're a what?
Trillionaire.
Trillionaire. Because?
Well, you put it out in the water and it comes back.
Oh, that's true.
You're a little slow in that one.
Well, no, you're right about that. No, I didn't catch it, but I should have, because you're right, because you put it all out there, and what the returns you're getting right now, when you look around and the things you've been part of building and leading, it's amazing, right? It's way, way better than any money in a bank or anything you'd have,
well,
right?
I hope I get some time off in purgatory.
Yeah.
First of all, I'll get there.
No, you're gonna get there. Okay, so you stuck with these, from that time on in the Pacific on that ship.
Well, I'd say I had that as a goal.
Yeah. So you might have wandered off on a couple of these things here or there, right, over time.
Oh yeah.
Right, because that's what we do. We're
some
imperfect.
things I've never did as bad as I've been at times. I've never taken the name of God in vain, and there's only 6 times in my life I missed Mass on Sunday.
Wow, that's awesome.
And in the Marine Corps, almost nobody went to Mass. The chapel was so far from our barracks, and we didn't have cars.
They didn't make it easy,
Yeah.
but you did. You got there, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's so far. After that, don't ask me any more questions.
Okay, so with when you got out of the Marines, what next?
Well, I saved most of the money I made in the Marine Corps.
How much did you save, do you think?
It was over $2,000. It was more than half what I made in the Marine Corps. And I was hitchhiking back to the base one day, and a guy picked me up, and smooth-talking Irishman, and he ended up eventually talking me out of my whole savings because they had a deal that was too good to be true. He was an oil man. And I got a Marine Corps broke.
Wow.
I got about $300, and I visited with him and his family, and they had all these kids, and I ended up giving my mustering out pay too. I kept $15 to get home.
Wow.
And I hitchhiked home.
So you were a giver when you had little to give. You gave it all then too.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
But that was really.
But it had to stunt your ability to focus on that financial thing.
Yeah, I had 3 years of planning and dreaming of what I was going to do,
and now you're broke again. So then what?
Well, I got into Michigan, but I didn't have the money. I went 3 weeks, without textbooks. So I said, this is hopeless. So I dropped out, and I bought a newsstand on the corner of Main, and the main corner of Ann Arbor was hawking papers. And then I got a job in charge of the paper boys at the newspaper office on the out-of-town papers. And I did a few other things. I was basically working most of my waking hours of working and trying to save up. And I went back the next semester, and I was working so much I couldn't stay awake in class. So I figured, well, I'll get out again and accumulate some more money so I don't have to work so hard. And then my brother came along with this, told me about this pizza place that was for sale that never got off the ground. And there's a hole in the wall. And my brother talked me into going in with him on it, and it was a partnership. It was $500 down. We borrowed $900 from a credit union, and took on a lot of debt, and reopened the place, and it was a disaster. My brother, I was working 6 nights a week. My brother was going to work half the night. I was going to work half the night. He was a mailman, and after we signed the papers, he just couldn't give up his job. He said too much security. So I'd given up everything I had, so I was stuck.
Yeah.
There goes college, and then the bills were piling up, and I was working 7 days a week, and I told my brother, "You're going to have to give me a day off. You own this part of this place too." And so he worked a night. I took a night off. I came in the next night, and he came in to see me in the shop, and he said, "I don't want anything to do with this. This is your type of thing, not mine." And he said, "You can have it." And I said, "Well, it's not worth anything. I agree with that. But you did take a risk. You ought to get something. But I just don't have anything to give you now." And I looked out the window, and I saw a delivery car we bought, a used Volkswagen. I think we paid $50 down for it. I said, "You take the Volkswagen, I'll keep making the payment." That's how I bought out half of Domino's Pizza.
That's how you bought out.
And he got the better part of that deal.
At that point, right?
Yeah.
Because it's worth nothing.
Oh, it was just a negative. It was all kinds of debt and losing
What kind of car was that?
It was a used Volkswagen, 59 Volkswagen.
59 Volkswagen. And what year is this?
This was 61 by this time. We opened in December of 60.
Wow. And so it was just you then? And did you have some employees at that point?
Yes, but I also...
and what was it called also? It was called something different, right?
It was called Dominick's.
Dominick's.
Yeah. And we didn't go to an attorney when we did this. The owner gave me permission to use his name. His name was Dominick. he had another place in Ann Arbor. We're in Ypsilanti, same county. He had the name registered. I knew nothing about that. He told anybody and everybody he sold it to us, and he gave us permission to use his name. Had nothing in writing. And so we got a call one day after a couple of years. It's the busiest pizza place in the state of Michigan then. And he said, you can't use my name anymore.
Wow.
So I had to come up with another name. So we're trying to come up with all different names and with the employees. And one day a driver came in from a delivery at a shoe store, and he said, I got her new name. It's Domino's. We knew it had to be Italian. And he said...
well, it was a pretty heavy Italian in the area you started?
No, but in the pizza business, everybody was Italian.
That's true.
And a lot of parts of the country didn't even have pizza. This was in the infancy of pizza. I tell people I'm in the pizza business, they didn't know what I was talking about unless they were from a big city.
Wow.
Yeah. So as soon as he said the Domino, I said, that's great. We'll call it Domino's. We had 3 stores at the time under different names, and we'll change them all to Domino's. And we'll have 3 dots. We have 3 dots, and every time we had a store, we had another Domino's. We still have 3 dots where there's 21,000 stores.
Yeah, it was 1962, 1963.
Well, this was about 62.
So you started at 3 dots because you had 3 stores?
And right. And I asked him where he got the name, and he says when I delivered the pizza, the salesman said, hey, there's a guy from Domino's. And you know what Domino's means in Latin?
No.
The Lord's. It's a Lord's pizza.
Wow. I
didn't catch that till years later. I had 2 years of Latin. I should have known.
That's awesome. That's a perfect name for you.
We were called the pro-life pizza, but we were never called the Domino.
Pro-life pizza?
The Lord's pizza. Yeah.
And you've been outspoken ever since you were really small in business, right? As far as your faith and your values, right? Mm-hmm. You probably didn't catch too much grief early on, right, for that?
Well, I certainly had a lot of financial problems. I took on a bad partner, which was unbelievable. It was the most lopsided partnership in the history of American business. Someday I should write a book about it. It's so ridiculous.
And when did you take a partner on?
I was in after the first year, not too long after my brother.
Wow. So the partner you took on, what was the deal there? What was your deal? 50-50? Or how'd you?
Well, I just wanted to hire him because he was he had been in the pizza business before, but went bankrupt. He had been an alcoholic and was on the wagon.
He had some challenges.
But he was smart and he was very helpful. I was asking anybody and everybody knew anything about the pizza business because I knew nothing about it, and he was very helpful. So he worked as a chef in the men's dorm at the university, and I said, "Could you come work for me?" He said, "Well, if I did, I'd have to have a piece of the action." I said, "Well, not what I had in mind. I figured maybe 5-10%. Well, how much would you have to have?" He said, 50%. What? 50%? But by this time, the business is profitable. It's a solid business. I just wanted to stabilize it and grow it.
Yeah.
And I was a kid, you know.
Yeah.
And I was 23 when I started.
Mm-hmm.
I looked like I was about 18. I figured, well, with my hard work and his brains, we'll stabilize this and grow. And 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So, okay, how much would you give me for half the business? $500. I couldn't believe it. $500. It was worth at least 10, 15,000 by then, maybe 20. And so I figured, well, my hard work and his brains. And I never got to $500. And he was supposed to work, and that part of the deal was I was going to open another place at another school.
Yeah.
I was going to go there, and he was going to take
over. Because your first couple were at schools.
Yes.
Yep.
First at Eastern Michigan, the second one at Central Michigan.
Okay.
100 miles away. And so I went up there, but then he decided after we agreed to this that he would only work part-time, that he felt he could do better part-time in the original store than I could full-time in the other store, because he was his first-rate genius and I was his kid.
Yeah.
What could I do? And so I went up to Mount Pleasant, booming success right off the bat. And the best part of it was, on my very first delivery, I delivered out of that store, just to get out of the store. I was working 7 days a week, training somebody to replace me. And I decided to deliver this pizza that was sitting there on the rack, and it was to a dorm, and the girl working on switchboard became my wife.
The first pizza you delivered? This is about Mount Pleasant.
Out of my second store. Yeah.
Your second store. Yeah. That's awesome.
And I managed to get a date with her to go to.
So a good-looking girl that you just struck a conversation with. Use that social.
She was a 10.
She was a 10. She was 11 out of 10 probably.
Yeah.
So you delivered the pizza to her, just struck up a conversation, or what?
Why, it's not very talkative, but we managed to get, I got back to the store and called up, and it took about 3 calls because she just came off duty. And so I made a pitch to the wrong person. And then the next one, she gave me the name of the person she replaced, and I made the pitch to her. And I was very shy with girls. This wasn't easy. And then she didn't know what I was talking about. And so she said, I have this other girl substitute for me. So what was her name? I tried one more time, and it was her. And I asked, and she said yes. And
that's awesome.
And so it was, I think, a few days after the first date, it was Valentine's Day. I sent her a heart-shaped pizza, probably the first heart-shaped pizza ever made.
Wow,
and
cool.
That didn't hurt.
That didn't hurt, no.
And after the second date, I was swept away. Third date, I showed up with an engagement ring.
Wow.
She didn't say yes, but and the funny thing is, some years, just in the last few years, we were some friends, they all knew how we met and how it happened so fast and everything. They say, Marge, what were you thinking of when Tom asked you to marry him and you hardly knew him and you said yes? And it took a week before she said yes, badgering her every day. And she said, well, he seemed like a hard worker. I was looking for something a little more romantic than that.
Yeah, he's good looking and he was debonair, right? He was a hard worker. Well, she was right about that. And with that, I mean, the pizza.
We're married almost 61 years.
The pizza guy back then, even probably a step below the pizza guy now, because it wasn't like his prestigious job, right?
No.
Right. So she had to believe in you in a big way. That's pretty cool. So all right, any questions you have up until now, Chris?
You mentioned a really bad partnership. Any advice from that experience to other people considering partnerships?
Well, I been very wary of any kind of partnership after that, and I found out that if I work hard and do and believe in myself, I'll be all right. And I over the course of some time, I've got the confidence to. It seems like most of the time I listen to other people instead of going by what
your gut.
I get in trouble. And I've been in a lot of trouble.
Now,
when other people's doing.
When did you buy him out, Tom?
After 3 years, and he was never working. He was living like a king. I was living in a house trailer with 2 little babies, living on about $50 a week. And he was buying a new car every 4 or 5 months. He was bought a house, filled it with furniture, tools, traveling all over the country.
Wow.
And I'm working 7 days a week in the pizza store, and all the money I'm making in the store I was running was supporting the stores that he was running, which were losing money.
Oh boy!
And finally, he proposed. I didn't know how to approach him. I just prayed. I said, "What am I going to do? I know he's stealing me blind." I said, "Well, as long as I'm doing over half the work, which was no problem, and I'm not stealing, I got nothing to worry about. Somebody is going to work out."
Yeah.
And so one day he came back from his vacation and he told me, he says, we ought to split up. I always take the pizza place, the other place were restaurants. He didn't think there was any potential in the pizza business.
Uh-huh.
And you give me $35,000. And I said, where'd you get $35,000 number from? He said, well, one time before I left the vacation, I was trying to encourage him because he was so depressed about the bills and everything. I said, you know what, the store in Ypsilanti is worth, that's probably worth $35,000. You really think so? Well, they came back, and that's the number he used. And so I was mad. That's the first time I didn't let him know. I went to my own attorney because we used his, and by the way, I never got that $500.
You never got the 500 in the
No.
first place.
No,
Oh, my
and so we worked out a strategy. I borrowed from suppliers, and because they knew how hard I worked and how much business I was doing, and even the banker loaned me money out of his own pocket, and
Wow,
I bought him out.
that's awesome.
And then 1 year, our 3 stores doubled their volume.
Wow. And then you remember those days, don't you? The banker that was there for you, the friend that was there for you, the vendor that let you go a little longer, right? All those things you don't forget in your career, right?
That's right.
So how did it become this crazy $1 billion business? How did this $1 billion sale in the late 80s, was it, early 90s?
Well, the first 20 years, I really wasn't a success. I was up and down, up and down. I had a big lawsuit with Domino Sugar, which could have wiped me out. I lost. We appealed it. I won the appeal. They applied to the Supreme Court, and it got turned down. That took 5 years. And and I had another situation where I got in with a bad attorney. I had a federal antitrust suit filed against me, and well, this is getting into the weeds too much. But he ended up with 13% of the company, and and I had to eventually get him out, and then I had a lot of just hired a lot of the wrong people.
Yeah.
And tried to go public. I listened to it. The guy was going to take me public, and he said, "You got to do all these things: hire MBAs, get computerized, get rid of that bookkeeper, and get a CPA firm, and all those statements and everything." And I did all the things he said, and he said, "Most of all, you got to expand." I went from 12 to 44 stores in about 10 months.
Yeah, 20 years. You had 12 stores?
No, I had 12. In 20 years, I probably had close to 300 stores.
Okay.
But I'm talking, this was 1969, the crash of 69. That's when I opened all those stores.
Oh, wow.
And I lost control of the company. The bank basically brought in somebody else, and I had 49%. And after about a year, they milked the company and gave it back to me, worse shape than ever.
Wow.
So,
And what year is that?
This was 71.
Wow. And you said like 20 years before you really figured it out. I mean, you started getting traction and understanding. I mean, you had amazing experience at that point.
Well, I had to come up with a lot of things to make pizza delivery work in multiple units. I had to come up with a central distribution system, making dough in a central place to ship it to the stores every day, and I had to come up with a franchise system that worked, because delivery is a lot tougher than typical restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all that business comes at once, and the customer doesn't know the phones are ringing off the hook.
Right.
Yeah,
They don't care.
So you got to figure out a way to handle that rush,
Yeah.
and that's something I was obsessed with. And I became the fastest pizza maker in the world simply because I got good hands, but I had to, because we were so busy. And
what are the things you did? What are the innovations you figured out to become the fastest? Because that's something we've done in my business too. We've become the fastest in our industry, and that helps because our customers want stuff done faster. It saves them money. So in your case, for sure.
Oh, many things. I'd say the big one was conveyor ovens. The first conveyor oven, because with the typical deck ovens, which everybody had, the busier you get, the more the oven cools down, because you're putting pizzas in, taking them out. And so when you get to a rush, instead of cooking a pizza in 6 minutes, you're cooking it in 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Yep.
And so,
and also there's something you did with the boxes too. We're able to stack more.
Box, first corrugated box.
First corrugated boxes.
Used a box made out of like a cake.
Yep.
And the pizzas, you put with the steam would make the pizzas. The box collapse, and you open it up, and half the pizzas on top of the box.
Yeah. And then it enabled you to deliver more pizzas at a time, right? On one route, you could stack more pizzas, right?
Well, they kept hotter. That was
they
the
kept
main
hotter.
thing I
Okay.
was worried about. Give it insulation. That was the main thing.
Mm-hmm. And then, okay, so from 20 years in, let's say 70, 71, 72 to then on.
Well, 80 was with a year, my breakout year. We went from 300 to 5,000 stores in about 7 years. In 1980,
300, say it again, 300 stores to
over 5,000, about 5,500.
wow.
And in 1985, we broke the all-time record for openings, 954 stores.
3 a day.
That's right. And it's hard to open one store, and they were scattered all over the world.
I
They
can't
weren't just,
imagine that.
And then we, all of a sudden, we're the 7th largest restaurant chain in the world, the largest privately held restaurant chain in the world.
That's nowadays. That's what it is. Nowadays, Domino's is the 7th largest.
No, this was back in the 80s.
Oh, okay, the 80s. Okay.
We were 54% of all the pizzas delivered in the United States. I mean, we basically created the pizza delivery market.
Wow.
And then I got carried away. I bought the Tigers. I won the World Series the first year. I got into some other businesses, and I was living the good life, spending money like water. I had one of the largest car collections in the world. I had 243 cars. Paid $8.1 million, broke the all-time record at the time for a Bugatti Royale. I was named one of the top 100 art collectors in the country. I was listed as a billionaire. I was offered to be on countless boards. I ended up with 13 honorary degrees. One of them shouldn't count because they gave me one at Ave Maria, and I wasn't too happy about that. But,
Okay, so let's get to that now. Okay, so you had everything going for you, amazing career, but it wasn't an overnight success story like many would think, right? Took you a long time to get the traction, the wisdom, and all that. You sold, and what was the year you sold?
Well, I sold in 98.
98.
But I ended up just about losing the business after all this.
After all that, after the
Well,
Tigers.
I took my attention off the business, and I decided to, I was getting a lot of philanthropy for the church, and I decided I want to do that all the time, so I was going to sell the company. So I put in another president, and I stepped aside to show a buyer company to get along without me, and the company completely fell apart.
Oh,
Pizza Hut
no.
guy in the delivery business spent over $1 billion, and all of a sudden they're delivering more pizzas than I was. So I had to come back. And
Who was that?
Pizza Hut.
Oh, Pizza Hut. Yeah.
And so I had to come back and put the company back together, and they say it was the biggest comeback in the history of the restaurant business. And I hired Goldman Sachs to keep the bankers away from me because I had about $500 million in debt, and it was about 30-some banks from all over the world. And I gave them $8 million for that. And after about 4 or 5 months, they came in and said, "You got to get a CEO. You don't have anybody here that can handle this." I said, "I turned this company around before. Nobody knows this company better than I do. I don't know how long it'll take me, but I can turn this company."
That was what year?
That was about 91. And so they said they disagree. So I ended up settling for $5 million, which I couldn't afford. Paid them off, and then 2 years later, we had the most profitable year we ever had.
1993. 2 years later.
Yeah.
You're back in the game.
Yeah, and then 97, 98, I say 96, 97, 98, we were really rolling. We had the highest same-store sales percentage increase of any national restaurant chain. That, to me, that's the key, most important indicator of the performance of our type of business.
Highest same-store
sales percentage increase. More than McDonald's, more than anybody.
Wow.
And then that's when I sold the company.
And you attribute that to the consistency, the marketing, what?
Well, I left one thing out. Back before I got in trouble the last time, I read a book by C.S. Lewis. It's called Mere Christianity, and there's a chapter there on pride.
Merit Christianity?
Mere Christianity. It's a classic.
Mere.
And it was on pride. And I read that chapter, and I couldn't sleep that night because basically he's telling me that I wasn't doing all the things I thought were good, like building for the future, living like a pauper till I could have more later, or when I was a kid, hustling more than anybody. Well, why? Because I wanted to say, "Good play, Tom." Or he said what you wanted was not just more, you wanted more than anybody else. Sell more pizzas, make more money, have a bigger yacht, have a bigger, and And so I decided I took what I call the millionaire's vow of poverty. I gave up all the ostentatious luxuries, got rid of the boats, the planes, the lodge up north, and the cars and everything. And that's a good thing I did, because it was after that things fell apart. Thank God that happened. And so to this day, and we had a lot of nice cars, and my wife had a Jaguar and a Cadillac, and I got rid of my Bentley, and I said, honey, why don't you maybe get a Mercury or a Buick or something? She said, you took the vow, I didn't.
You took the vow, I didn't. That's funny. 1998, highest same-store sales, and 1999.
Same-store sales increase. Percentage increase.
Percentage increase, there you go. And then 1999 as a sale, or when does?
The end of 98.
End of 98.
And I wanted to be full-time for the church, and particularly start a university. I'd already started Legatus in '87, and that was really rewarding. And some other things. I had the first Catholic radio station in the country, and now we produce programming for over 300 and some stations.
Wow. And are those stations, or is that a show?
All those stations. There were Catholic shows, but there weren't Catholic stations. They were the first one. And, Teresa Time, El Cresta in the afternoon, and all those.
So started Legatus, which, I'm appreciative, because it's a great organization. And there's so much great networking when you can network with people that have the same faith, that believe in the same goals and same values. It's fun to network with those people, right, to grow.
Yeah, I've had bishops tell me that we're the most effective lay organization in the church. Just about anything that's going on in the church, you see Legatus fingerprints all over.
Yeah.
That's done by laity.
It's awesome. And then so that was started in '87, Legatus, and then the Catholic radio was when?
Oh gosh, that was about 92 or 3 maybe.
And how many radio stations?
Well, there's we don't own the station. We own about 6 or 7, but we provide programming for over 300. So at first, I was just financing people to get them into the radio business.
Yep.
I provide the programming, because that's the expensive part of running a radio station.
Right. Provide programming for how many?
Well, now
how many shows? Or
I would say 300, 350 stations.
What a difference.
Stations.
What a difference. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so when did this Legatus idea come up?
That was in 1987. I was a member of YPO, and I was given the keynote speech at their annual university and international university in Venice. And I was there, had the opportunity from our Cardinal in Detroit to go to Rome and attend Mass in the Pope's private chapel, and he was my number one hero in the world. So I had my plane over there, so I was able to do it. That was after that Mass.
This is Pope John Paul.
Oh, yeah. The Pope.
The Pope, that's
and
right.
Then I got the idea, and I was 50, so they kick you out of YPO then. And so I thought there ought to be an organization like YPO for Catholics, because it's a very beneficial organization.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, when I got that idea, I knew that was the Holy Spirit. And so I spent a lot of time getting that started.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you were traveling all over the place, and new chapters, come together. And you're there to open it, to start it up everywhere.
A lot of money too. A lot of these chapters just start on their own. Yeah.
So then Ave Maria. How long after?
Well, that was we opened up in Ypsilanti in a closed-up schoolhouse we bought as a temporary location, and that was in 97 or 8. And then we were planning on building the campus in Ann Arbor, where Domino's Farms was, where I had accumulated 2,300 acres, and we're going to use all that for the school. Going to use a lot of it, but I couldn't get the zoning. And meanwhile, this little school is growing like crazy, and we're bursting at the seams, and I'm buying up all the houses around because we want everybody to live on campus. And so I prayed, and I thought, what am I going to do? I thought for sure I'd have zoning by this time, be able to build this campus. I had planned it. And so I said, well, maybe. I went to Naples every year after Christmas for a week, and I thought, wow, where's the best place in the country to build a school? 90% of the schools are in Catholic schools in areas where it's cold in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And there was only 8 schools south of the Mason-Dixon line that were Catholic, and
Wow.
nobody heard of any of them. Maybe Loyola and New Orleans would be the only one. And so I felt, Naples was the highest average net worth in the country. A lot of,
Even back then it was too?
and it was back then. I don't know what it is now. I assume it is.
Now it definitely, I think, is.
And so so I decided, let's go. And I knew the map of the United States better than just about anybody. I knew all the demographics and everything. And so this was the place.
And that was the 19. So then, what did you do with that 2,300 acres or whatever? Did you?
I eventually gave a lot of it for our high school, for a parish, for an order of the sisters, Mary, Mother of the Eucharist, build a convent, a mother house,
and then
then an order of Maronite monks who say Mass for us at Domino's Farms 4 times a day.
And then, so 1997 or 1998 that you came down here and said, we're building here?
No, that was 02.
02,
Yeah.
2002.
And we had a temporary location in Naples where the law school is now. And then we made this arrangement with the Collier family to build a campus, just under 1,100 acres outside of Naples. And we they gave us free land for the campus, and I bought 50% of the remaining land for the university. So it would be an endowment, because I figured if the campus is going to be the nucleus for them to build a town, I wanted the university to be a beneficiary of that. So
yeah, and you know, we look around the building that's going on here is incredible. I mean, you know, I live down here in Naples too now, but where I grew up in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, you don't see, you can drive all day long and maybe see 2 or 3 new houses going up. You know where I'm from, if you're just on the main roads, right? You come in here. How many homes are you building here? 500-600 a year now, or what is it?
Over 600.
Over 600 homes a year in this one community.
Yeah, but when we started with a crash.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
the
well,
first
yeah,
year, we had all kinds of inquiries and applications, but with a crash, we ended up building 37 homes, and I'm losing about maybe $7-8 million a year on that.
Wow! So
we had a water treatment plant, wells. We paid for all the infrastructure ourselves, and
so about 2008. Then in 2008, you're saying the crash happened, and you got all this infrastructure built, ready to go, and you can't sell anything at that point.
Yeah.
Wow. How many years did you have to wait it out before it started?
About 4 or 5 years. That was tough. I say I had to subsidize it. I mean, we just to get the supermarket or the public supermarket, we had to guarantee the losses from to put it in, and we had an understanding that they wouldn't sell contraceptives, so they just didn't have a pharmacy. Later on, they kind of reneged on that. Now they have a pharmacy. Not too happy about that, but we had to cover their losses. I think their losses ended up being about $13 million before they finally broke into the black.
Boy, Tom, that's unreal. That had to be, it was just scary. 12 or 13 million, because you guaranteed their losses. Because there's no way you would have figured that would happen, right?
No, we were getting, when we started, we had something like 70-some thousand inquiries for homes, with Pulte was our builder.
Is Pulte still the main builder?
Well, they're one of 3 now.
Yeah, because a couple hundred homes a year is a lot of homes for each one to build, probably, right? All right. When you look at the vision of this, I mean, how many homes total are here now?
I would say over 5,000. Yeah. And we have approval for probably, I'm going to say 12,000. So it'd be a pretty good sized community.
Yeah. So basically 10 more years, at this pace, you're going to be there. And the economy isn't like this everywhere in the country, right? I mean, Florida the economy is great here. They're doing the right things.
That's the only way they can go in Naples. can't go north, can't go west.
No, can't go west.
You only go east.
A little wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So
it's going to be a good endowment.
It's going to be a great
for the
endowment.
LRC.
And are you own all the lots? You're selling the lots off as you do this, or how's it working?
No, we it's not that simple, but we sell the lots to the builders, and they take down so many at a time, and then we get so much then, and then we get more when the home sells. So, and it's not the same with every builder.
Mm-hmm. When you look at the community, the school, how big is the school today, and how big can it get 10 years from now when you got 11, 12,000 people?
Well, there's no limit how big it can be. But my idea is to be a Catholic Hillsdale, and we're already referred to as that. There are about 1,400 and some students, and I think that's where we want to be. We want them all living in the dorms because that's the most valuable part of their education. And then the spiritual life with adoration. And we want to have 16 masses every day, every hour in the hour, continuous confession from 6:30 till 10 every night, 7 days a week.
Wow.
Perpetual adoration, we have that.
I saw that.
I think we're up to 9 masses a day now, but we want to get to, between us and the oratory, over 20-some masses every day. Plus, when the law school moves out there with their own chapel, probably another 3 or 4 a day.
Wow. And when you think about the values that this school delivers to kids, it somehow, like I said, when I was here at the game, when I've been here before, looking at the school for my youngest son, more lately than ever, I feel the values kind of are exuded by the people around this campus. What are the values what are these values that you've had in your life? Are you seeing here? Does the school have some type of values that besides the Bible and the Catholic faith?
All the students know my 5 priorities.
Do they?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome because you can see it in these kids, right? And the people that are here.
It's, with Mark here, it's getting much better.
Yeah, Mark is an all-star.
How
did you get this guy anyway? Because I knew Mark from
directly from heaven.
Directly from heaven.
Yeah.
How did it happen?
Yeah.
So Mark Mittendorf is a guy that I've heard of and known. He's good friends with a bunch of my friends from northern Illinois, northwestern Illinois, northwest suburbs of Illinois and Chicago. And I met him a couple times, years ago. But what a high-quality person he is, and for you to land him here to take this job.
He has great vision because he agrees 100% with my vision.
Perfect vision.
Yeah, perfect vision.
You know what?
And we think we can produce more vocations than any school in the world, even with our small size. And not just vocations, but a good vocation. A lot of future bishops.
Yeah. And how about families? I think what we're missing, and besides good bishops and good priests and good,
one of my
how about great families and raising great kids?
Well, my pet course is what I call full-time motherhood, or what they call it the philosophy of motherhood. So they learn to be. We feel the biggest luxury you can give a child is a full-time mother.
Oh, absolutely.
And about 25% of our graduates marry each other.
Really, 25% do?
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense, right? Because you're not going to get this culture everywhere. And when kids experience this, they love it. They know that the other kids that love it are aligned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense. Compared to, these schools kids go to, and they're all over the place, from good Catholic Christian kids to kids that are totally nuts, totally crazy, because they had they didn't have a real motherhood in their lives, probably, right?
No.
But either way, so the odds of a kid finding the right person at other schools are very low. Odds of a kid finding the right person
improve
here,
the odds
very high.
dramatically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
And we cater to Eastern Rite Catholics. We found that no school does that. And from my experience with the Maronite priests, they tend to be more devout. There's no such thing as a Eastern Rite parish that's liberal. They're all Orthodox.
Huh.
And they're strong families, strong work ethic, entrepreneurial, and no school caters to them, so we go after them.
So your values are perfect for a person that wants to be an entrepreneur, that wants to lead in life, right? I mean, they really are. Knowing that, are you seeing some results? Are you seeing kids that go on to be leaders, that go on to build their own thing, right? To
a
mimic.
lot in the nonprofit area too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So nonprofit, for
And the law-
profit.
from the law school too. We even have a federal judge already.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow, that's awesome.
Mhm.
And how many kids will graduate from high school this year, and how many from college?
Well, from college, we don't have high school.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We built a high school, but it's now a part of the parish,
Okay.
and that's we about close to 300. And we have a grad school right from the beginning. We had a PhD in theology, and we have
Wow.
probably the top theologian in the world here, Father Matthew Lamb, to head that up. He's no longer with us. He died, but.
And how many priests do you have on campus here?
I would say 10 or 11 maybe. We have some that are getting their PhD in theology, a few getting their master's in theology. We have a number of them that are on the staff. We have a few that are teaching theology, and we have a few retirees. We got the perfect campus for retirees. That's why we can have so many masses in the future, because and the priests that want to take a sabbatical of this.
So when I think of Tom Monaghan, I think about the visionary that you are, right? And getting young people to understand how to visualize something that's beyond what other people can see is a tremendous blessing. Are you able to somehow
that was
teach
one of my
that?
problems. How to get anybody to run this place to understand that.
Yeah.
We just couldn't find anybody. And I ran it myself, going back and forth every week because my wife wouldn't move down here. I was just living in the dorm.
I heard about that. So you got rid of the planes and you're flying coach, right?
Oh, yeah,
And you usually take the middle seat. Is that right?
that's right.
Because like me, you like to talk to, you like to network with people, but you also like to can talk to people about their faith probably
Just about everybody, just below the surface.
just below the surface.
You can, just about everybody. If they can speak English, I can talk to them about their faith.
So
Sometimes because that's why I have to have the middle seat, or I get somebody that's because a lot of the co-eds around the country hated me because I was pro-life pizza, and there were boycotts on campuses all over the country against Domino's. And so if I run into somebody that went to a college co-ed,
yeah.
sometimes I got some pretty nasty.
Well, seeking out the salvation of the souls is not an easy thing. I mean, you're going to rub people wrong sometimes, but in the long run,
And you get the devil, man. We might be the school that devil hates the most.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of.
it's not going to be easy. But you're a gritty guy. You've been a gritty guy. You've built something from nothing, and you continue to build with an amazing, what people think crazy vision that you have, and you continually. I'm sure over your course of your career, you've had people laughing and say, "Tom, you're crazy. There's no way you can do that." Right?
Yeah,
How often do you hear that?
career.
But what?
Part of the reason is I'm better at dreaming things up than I am articulating them.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just have to do it.
Yeah.
And I own the company, so I could do it.
Exactly.
And a lot later on, now I see what you had in mind.
Chris, you know what? We could talk to Tom for days, right? He's what a fun person, what a great person, a blessing to our America. What are any more questions you have for him? And then
Do an entire episode on every year of his career.
yeah, I know it. Well, we shortened it up as much as we could to get as much as we could in here, and we went through everything that we wanted to pretty much. When we talk about Domino's, we talk about Legatus, and now Ave Maria, and
We got a pretty good football team too.
pretty good football team here. Yep. And
We probably have the highest GPA of any football team in the
is
country.
that right? Right up there with Northwestern, probably, huh? There's Northwestern used to be noted for that, right?
Well, I don't know about their football team though. I mean, Michigan has by maybe a 32 ACT, but not on their football team. It's probably about a 9.
Oh, okay.
Probably about a.
But here it's different.
Yeah,
High
yeah.
ACT here.
And when they get helmets on their sticker, it's for their scores in their class, not on their
Really?
touchdowns.
Oh, that's pretty cool. How about that, Chris, huh? So what did you pick up here? Okay, what are the lessons, the nuggets of success, the nuggets of what we love to hear when we talk to people like Tom? Lay it on us.
I loved how you were talking about how the 1980s were really when you guys took it to a new level. Uh, I'm curious, what did you learn running the business during the 60s and 70s that enabled you to achieve such massive growth during the 80s?
Well, I learned a lot of things because I seem to be one of those people that have to learn by making mistakes. And in the pizza business itself, I fell in love with the delivery part of it because nobody could do it. It's too hard. You can't give good service during peak periods because the people don't know you're busy when they call. The phone, you got 10 phone lines going on one side, you got to deliver all those pizzas. To me, that was an exciting challenge. And I had to come up with a lot of different things to make delivery work. And to me, it was exciting because no one else could do it. In my first store, I think that was the best performance in any job I ever had in my life. I just loved running the store. It was the busiest pizzeria in the world. We on the Sundays when they didn't serve meals in the dorms, we were for a 4-hour stretch. We were making about 3 pizzas a minute.
Wow. So in the first
Every
20
20 seconds making a pizza.
first 20 years, lots of mistakes, just constantly learning, and then in the last 15 years, I guess it'd be or so, right? Just took advantage of all those lessons.
Yeah. I always used to say that I like delivery because nobody wants it but the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Because pizza places didn't want to deliver. It's too tough getting help. You don't get the best help. And I had to come up with ways of overcoming that.
But now they all have to do it to compete with Domino's.
Yeah. We showed the others how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else you got there, Chris?
Yeah, Tom. So it sounds like Jeff Bezos owes you a lot for setting the tone there, just figuring out these incredible logistics problems.
It's Amazon
Oh, Amazon
owes you for
yeah.
fast delivery and delivery.
Oh, yeah.
The secrets of it, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people have mentioned that to me.
And I think that there's so many businesses that in even my industry where if you can deliver, fast, high quality, fast, you're gonna have success because there's so many people that are lackadaisical in business that don't have a sense of urgency. They don't see the value of fast. You did from the 60s on.
Well, it was an exciting challenge to handle the rush. I mean, to go through the whole evening without any pizza getting to the customer in over 30 minutes is quite an accomplishment. And we did that day after day after day. And we really didn't have to advertise.
No, because
I just had to get enough people, train them well, and handle the business.
No, I mean, even today, that if you want pizza fast, Domino's. You're going to call it Domino's. It's just the way
Well, it's
it
not
is.
like it was in my first store, but it's better than anybody else.
What else you got, Chris?
Yeah, that's awesome. Tom, how did you get the business back on track in the 90s, I think you said?
That was probably the hardest I've ever worked in my life. I had a lot of lawsuits from franchisees. Stores were closing left and right. I had a group of franchisees that started a class action antitrust suit against me. I had one of those years earlier, so I was prepared for that, and we got it dismissed. That I had an organization that franchisees brought in to displace our distribution system with their own, and convincing franchisees that they were being gouged, and they ended up with all kinds of work and money and effort, didn't sell a single item through the franchisees. But then I had a lawsuit on a fender bender, which was the second largest punitive damage reward in history. I think the one General Motors said was $85 million on a fender bender, and insurance didn't cover punitive damages in the state of Missouri where this took place.
Wow.
And this is what I'm trying to come back.
But you were the franchisor, right? Or do you own all these?
No, it was a franchise store, but they had to have a certain amount of insurance as part of their franchise agreement. Then we had a blanket
Over
thing
top
for
of them.
all of it, so that it was covered, but not $85 million.
No.
And so, and then I had to give up the 30-minute guarantee then. which was devastating because all of a sudden our delivery times
Yeah.
went up about 6 minutes. And, 1 minute is worth $100 million
Wow.
with our size. So,
Unreal.
so I had a tough time, but we did it. And
So
I remember we had the day when we were finally virtually debt-free and making more money than ever, opening a lot of stores again. And we called it Domino's Deliverance Day.
Domino's Deliverance
We
Day.
had a basking party, and we went through the whole time. That was more fun.
That's amazing. So, Chris, what I see here really is, we talk about values and core values all the time, right? But think about how Tom's, has inspired other people, not just as he lived this and strived to live these values, and his vision has been complete. His vision when he visualized Domino's and Legatus, Ave Maria, right? They've come to fruition as his vision was because of these values, in my opinion: spiritual, social, right? Mental, exercising your mind, physical, exercising your body, and financial. Understand the financials, understand the numbers, right? I mean, these five values are amazing values, and your vision is like no other I've ever seen, right?
Well, I picked the right wife too.
You're picking the right wife. That's the big. That's a big thing we
People are
mentioned.
going to live on a tiny house trailer with 2 kids and driving old delivery cars.
That's
and never and me working 7 days a week, no vacations for 13 years.
Wow. Well, you know what? Your story is an amazing story, and it's a great American story, a great American story, and really a God-driven life, God-driven success, in my opinion, in this great American free market that we're blessed to be part of, right?
No, and I couldn't have done it without my faith.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Now you have to believe every day that you're waking up and you have a purpose, right?
And one big things I did in my life spiritually was I always wanted to be a daily communicant. I figured I could wait till I have time. Then I read that Don Shula that just had the perfect season, and he went to Mass every day. I said, what's my excuse? So I've been going to Mass every day ever since. And that was the change.
That's
from
awesome.
That, I led the Legatus, saying the Rosary every day. And the radio, and all the other things.
Just like Don's life inspired so many, yours is going to inspire a lot more, in my opinion. I mean, you're.
And he came to our first football practice.
Did he really?
Talk to the employee.
Wow, that's neat. Yeah,
that was special.
What a blessing you are to America and this Catholic faith that we're part of. I really appreciate you as the person you are, the leader you are.
Well,
so thanks so much for being on Ditch Digger CEO today.
I used to dig ditches too.
You did that. That's right. I heard that.
Yeah, I worked for the city of Ann Arbor for a while, digging ditches for the water department. Putting in the sewers.
So he's the perfect guest, Chris. He was a ditch digger like me.
$1.65 an hour.
Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you today. Thanks for everything, Chris. Thanks for helping us out today again, Chris. And until next time, Ditch Digger CEO. See ya.